Let's be honest. There's a moment in every relationship where a woman knows deep down that she's lost you. Not the playful teasing, not the casual drifting apart, but the undeniable truth. The connection that once held her attention, the spark she thought she could control, it's gone. And when that realization hits, everything she does suddenly shifts. It's subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but the signs are there if you're paying attention. And most men, they miss it entirely. It starts with a change in energy. She stops fighting for attention because she knows she no longer has the power to pull it. She doesn't text with the same urgency, doesn't laugh at your jokes the way she once did, and when she looks at you, it's not with the same fire, that intensity that drew you in. It's been replaced with a calculated distance, a quiet acknowledgement that you are slipping away, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. You might notice her turning inward. Conversations become shorter. There's a guardedness in her words, almost like she's protecting herself from the disappointment she senses. She might still smile, she might still act playful, but it's mechanical. You can feel it if you tune in. There's no warmth behind the eyes, no hunger in her voice. That's not just sadness. That's the subtle psychological armor of someone who knows they've lost influence over your heart. Then comes the instinct to test you, almost unconsciously. She'll push boundaries just enough to see if you still care, if you'll chase, if the old dynamic can be revived. But here's the thing. Her tests aren't designed to attract you back. They're designed to measure the damage. Every slight, every playful jab, every accidental flirtation with someone else, it's her inner radar scanning for cracks in the reality she already knows, that you're moving on emotionally or physically. And this is where most men misread everything. They think she's playing hard to get, or trying to make them jealous, or testing commitment. In reality, she's processing loss. The more she senses your confidence and independence, the more her actions reveal the truth. She knows she no longer holds the emotional reins. And that shift in her behavior, it's as magnetic as it is painful, because you see her and you feel the absence of the connection that once existed. Notice the changes in her social behavior. She posts differently on social media, more curated, more distant. She's suddenly busy, with subtle signals designed to create space, to normalize the gap that she can't fill anymore. She may even act slightly cold or indifferent toward your accomplishments, your jokes, your attention. Not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. She's protecting herself from a reality where she's no longer the one defining your emotional landscape. What's fascinating and heartbreaking is how precise this transformation is. It's not accidental. It's a deep, instinctive response to losing emotional dominance, the same force that once drew you in without effort. And the more you observe without reacting impulsively, the clearer it becomes. She's no longer trying to hold on to you. She's processing the truth that she already has. When a woman knows she's lost you, her world subtly reorients around a single truth. She can't control your attention anymore. And that shift? It manifests in ways most men don't even notice until it's too late. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, but it's undeniable if you're paying attention. One of the first things you'll notice is a sudden absence of emotional investment. She stops initiating deep conversations, stops sharing thoughts that once felt intimate, those late-night talks that made you feel like the only man in the world, gone. Replaced by surface-level exchanges, safe topics, and carefully measured responses. The warmth she once radiated now has a subtle edge, calm, neutral, emotionally distant. This isn't rejection, it's self-preservation. She's protecting herself from the disappointment of knowing that the influence she once had over your heart is fading. You might see her testing boundaries, not to win you back, but to understand the new reality. She'll see how you respond when she's distant, how you react when she's playful in a detached way, or even when she flirts subtly with someone else. These behaviors are not about manipulation. They're a mirror reflecting back to her the truth she can't change, that she is no longer the center of your world. And the reactions you give her, they confirm the reality she's trying to process. Confidence and calm in your demeanor makes her internal alarm bells ring. Fear, desire, frustration, They're all wrapped in a quiet acknowledgement. She's lost her hold. Then there's the sudden redefinition of her presence in your life. She may become busy in ways that feel almost scripted: work, friends, new hobbies. Yet, if you observe closely, it's a deliberate expansion of distance. She's creating space not because she wants to, but because she's learning to exist in a reality where you may not be fully hers anymore. That space feels foreign, but it's crucial for her own emotional equilibrium. The more you respect it without panicking, the more she subconsciously registers that her former influence is fading. You'll notice a change in her tone. Conversations that were once filled with teasing, laughter, or emotional vulnerability now carry a subtle precision. There's purpose in every word, a quiet measurement of energy exchanged, almost as if she's recalibrating her emotional output based on what she perceives you've withdrawn. She's no longer amplifying your attention, she's responding cautiously, as if testing the boundaries of what remains. And here's the hidden truth most men completely miss. She's grieving the loss of the dynamic she once had with you. It's not just attraction, it's the power of being deeply connected, of having an emotional anchor in you. Her actions, no matter how cool or distant they appear, are rooted in a primal understanding that the emotional bond has shifted. She knows you're slipping away, and her behaviors are the outward manifestation of that internal reckoning. Finally, observe the subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in her nonverbal communication. Eye contact is fleeting, smiles are calculated, touches are minimal or absent. Even when she's physically present, there's a psychological withdrawal, a gentle retreat from closeness. She's not punishing you. She's processing a truth most men never notice until it's too late. She's aware you're emotionally free, and that realization changes everything. When a woman realizes she's lost you, her mind begins to strategize, not consciously, but instinctively. She's no longer acting out of desire or attraction in the way she once did. Every glance, every word, every pause carries weight. You might call it playing games, but it's more accurate to call it her subconscious measuring stick, testing reality against the truth she now knows. You're slipping away, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. You'll notice her oscillating between attention and withdrawal. One moment she's warm, playful, almost magnetic. The next she's distant, cold, or even slightly indifferent. It's not random, it's a psychological tactic she doesn't even realize she's performing. She's recalibrating her influence, gauging how much emotional pull she still holds, and if you remain composed, confident, and unreactive, she will feel it. The undeniable reality that the power she once had over you is gone. She may also unconsciously heighten her value in your eyes. Suddenly, her achievements, her appearance, her social presence, all of it is subtly amplified. She posts strategically on social media, shares glimpses of her life with calculated timing, and maintains just enough allure to catch your attention without regaining control. This isn't manipulation, it's the human mind instinctively testing the boundaries of what it has lost. And for you, it's a window into the truth of her awareness. She knows she no longer owns your emotional landscape. Then comes the pull-push effect. She'll act as if she's inviting you in, only to pull away at the last second. That unexpected withdrawal isn't cruelty. It's a reflection of internal conflict. She's torn between instinctively wanting you close and recognizing that the connection she once had is fading. And here's the kicker. The more composed and confident you remain, the more she registers the depth of her loss. Every attempt to reassert closeness that you don't respond to reinforces her awareness. She's losing ground she can't reclaim. You might notice small acts of subtle competition. She becomes aware of other men in your orbit, whether real or imagined. Her attention may shift slightly, not to provoke jealousy in a shallow way, but as a mirror of her own realization that she no longer has exclusive access to your focus. These are not calculated games. They're the natural consequence of knowing she's lost her position in your life. And the more you remain unbothered by these signals, the clearer her internal truth becomes. Even her compliments change. They're less spontaneous, more measured, almost transactional. The warmth behind her words is now filtered through the lens of awareness. She knows she no longer influences you the way she used to. Her laughter may still exist, but it's quieter, less spontaneous, more controlled. Her charm, once effortless, is now a tool she subconsciously uses to gauge how much of your attention she can still capture. Finally, pay attention to her energy. It's not just words or actions, it's the subtle vibration of someone aware they're no longer at the center of your emotional universe. She's recalibrating herself against reality, testing, probing, but ultimately resigning to a truth most men never recognize. She's lost you, and everything she does now is an unconscious reflection of that realization. The moment she truly knows she's lost you, it's written everywhere in her presence, even in the silences between words. You might think she's indifferent, but look closer. Her eyes tell the story your ears can't hear. They flicker with a subtle hesitation, a shadow of regret, or even a flash of longing she can't quite disguise. Men often miss it because they're listening for words, but the truth is always in the unspoken, in the micro-expressions, in the energy that lingers when she's near. You'll notice her tone shift, almost imperceptibly. The playfulness that once seemed effortless now has an edge of caution, a careful measurement of each phrase. She smiles, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. She laughs, but it's quieter, less spontaneous, like she's performing warmth rather than feeling it. And when you pay attention to the space between her words, the pauses, the subtle inhalations or shifts in posture, that's where the truth slips out. She knows she's no longer the one steering your emotions. There's a strange duality in her behavior. On one hand, she may try to reclaim glimpses of your attention with small gestures, a touch on the arm, a lingering look, but on the other, there's a protective withdrawal. She won't give herself fully because she knows she's lost leverage, and showing vulnerability now is dangerous. Every movement is a negotiation between instinctive desire and rational self-preservation. This is where most men misread everything. They think she's hot and cold to play games, but the reality is far more profound. She's navigating grief over the loss of her influence. You'll also observe her interactions with others change. She may become more visible in social settings, subtly emphasizing her independence, her value, and the life she's living without relying on your attention. She's not trying to provoke jealousy. It's a natural shift that comes from internalizing the fact that she's no longer the emotional anchor in your life. This change can feel disorienting to you because it's the mirror of her acceptance. The very woman who once needed your focus now exists without it, and that realization is raw, even if unspoken. The silent moments carry the most weight, when she pauses before responding, when she chooses to step back rather than fill the space with words. That's where the subconscious truth emerges. She's learning to recalibrate, to exist in a reality where her influence over you is diminished. And every time she notices that you're unshaken by her absence, unprovoked by her gestures, her internal acknowledgement deepens. She's lost you, and there's no undoing it. Even in her body language, the truth is clear. Shoulders less tense but chest less open. Leaning toward you but not fully. Touching but hesitating. It's the delicate dance of someone who knows the rules have changed, yet is still subconsciously testing boundaries to understand how far that loss truly reaches. And the fascinating, almost cruelly poetic part is this. The more calm, confident, and unreactive you remain, the more she registers the depth of what she's lost. Finally, she may appear indifferent in public, almost stoic, but those closest to her will notice subtle shifts, her quiet sighs, her reflective glances, her sudden laughter that doesn't quite connect. She is processing, internalizing, mourning the emotional terrain she once controlled. And if you've learned to read these signals, you understand something most men never do. Her actions are not about manipulation. They are the unfiltered language of realization. She knows she's lost you, and her psyche cannot hide it, even when she tries. When she knows she's lost you, her behavior becomes a subtle dance of testing, measuring, and unconsciously signaling her awareness. It's not overt. It's quiet, psychological, and almost impossible to misread once you know what to look for. And here's the truth most men overlook. Every small action she takes now is a reflection of an internal reckoning, a deep understanding that she no longer holds the power she once did over your emotions. You'll notice a new pattern in her interactions. She'll test your boundaries, not to manipulate, but to gauge how emotionally independent you've become. She may bring up topics she knows once triggered strong reactions in you, or ask questions she knows will reveal your priorities. But here's the key. She isn't fishing for control. She's observing, almost scientifically, how your emotional state operates without her influence. And if you remain calm, steady, and confident, her subconscious acknowledgement of loss intensifies with every unshaken response you give. She may also experiment with scarcity. Suddenly, her presence is less predictable. She might respond later than usual, cancel plans, or engage in social activities without informing you. Again, it's not cruelty. It's her brain recalibrating to a reality where your attention is no longer guaranteed. She's testing the edges of emotional distance, almost as if she wants proof of what she already knows. And when you remain composed, independent, and undisturbed, it solidifies her awareness. She's no longer in control. Then there are the flashes of nostalgia, small, unplanned moments where she recalls what once was. She may mention memories, laugh at inside jokes, or reference times when she felt close to you. These aren't attempts to regain you. They're the unconscious surfacing of grief over the emotional bond she's losing. Pay attention to these moments. They're emotional fingerprints of her internal struggle, subtle indicators that she's processing the finality of her influence over you. Her self-presentation subtly shifts too. She may elevate her appearance, showcase her accomplishments, or highlight social interactions. Men often misinterpret this as an attempt to compete or provoke jealousy, but it's deeper than that. It's a reflection of her mind adapting to loss, a way of asserting identity in a space where your attention is no longer the measure of her worth. The more composed and self-assured you are, the more she internally registers the truth. She's no longer the center of your focus, and she feels it keenly. Even her emotional signals are mixed. Softness paired with detachment, warmth laced with hesitation, attention punctuated by distance. These micro-behaviors are consistent, repeated, and subtle, but they all point to one undeniable fact. She is processing a truth she cannot alter. She knows she has lost you, and everything she does now is filtered through that awareness. Finally, the most revealing signals aren't her words, they're her silences, her pauses, her unspoken glances. Watch for moments where she hesitates, lingers in thought, or withdraws slightly from interaction. These are not manipulations, they are the unconscious expressions of recognition. She knows the dynamic has changed, and if you're observant enough, you'll see it reflected in every glance, every pause, every gesture. By the time she fully realizes she's lost you, her entire energy shifts in a way that's impossible to ignore. She's no longer chasing, no longer negotiating for attention, no longer trying to manipulate outcomes, because deep down, she knows she's too late. The connection that once tethered her to your world has loosened, and she can feel it in every interaction, every glance, every pause. And if you're observant, you can read the unspoken truth in every subtle signal. She begins to act almost paradoxically. On one hand, she may seem detached, even cold. On the other hand, there are brief moments of vulnerability, glances that linger too long, small touches that almost betray a longing she can't quite express. These moments aren't invitations or traps. They are the natural outpouring of a mind and heart, adjusting to a reality she can't control. She's recalibrating her emotional landscape in real time, and every action she takes now is colored by the awareness that you're no longer hers to hold. You might notice a pattern in her curiosity. She'll ask subtle questions about your life, your emotions, your experiences, never aggressively, but just enough to gauge the distance you've created. It's not jealousy, it's the human instinct to understand what's slipping away. And the more grounded, confident, and independent you remain, the more she registers internally. She is no longer the anchor, and nothing she does can change that. Her social behavior will often mirror this truth. She may step back from mutual friends, avoid certain spaces where she once felt dominant in your life, or present herself as fully independent. These are not calculated manipulations. They are coping mechanisms, the outward reflection of someone learning to exist without control over your attention or emotions. She's processing the loss quietly, almost invisibly, but the truth is clear if you pay attention. And here's the paradox you need to understand. The stronger, calmer, and more detached you are, the more she feels the reality of her loss. Every moment of your emotional independence is a mirror showing her what she no longer possesses. Every confident decision you make, every time you live without waiting for her approval, every boundary you hold, it intensifies her recognition that she's lost her influence. And this is why the men who truly understand this dynamic gain an unshakable advantage. They see the truth, they remain steady, and they rise above the games most women unconsciously play. Now take a moment and reflect. Think about your own relationships, your own interactions, and the women in your life. Ask yourself this: on a scale of 1 to 10, how often do you recognize the subtle signals of a woman realizing she's lost you? Type your answer in the comments below. If this insight hit home, like this video, subscribe for more unfiltered truths about female psychology and share it with a friend who needs to hear this, because the reality is harsh, unspoken, and unavoidable. But when you understand it, you finally gain clarity, power, and freedom in your relationships.